Have you found yourself navigating a dark night of the soul? Are you craving a deeper connection with the divine feminine? Are you ready to integrate the balanced union of the masculine and feminine within? Then let's get started on the journey towards wholeness to reclaim your sovereign soul. My name is Cynthia Clark. Over the past several decades, I have undergone many dark nights of the soul. My healing journey has been a reclamation of my sovereign divinity. Whether you're just starting out on your self-healing journey or have been exploring techniques for many years, Discover Divinity offers an opportunity to uncover the new possibilities for discovering and reclaiming the innate wisdom within. It is time to discover the new possibilities. It is time to discover you. What if your breaking was actually the beginning? In this episode, Fragmented to Whole, the Path to Sacred Co-Creation, I am joined by Christ-centered life coach Sunshine Hemmert to explore how grief, loss, and stillness became the doorway to her divine wholeness. From global soul retrieval journeys to deep inner healing, Sunshine shares her 4 steps to sacred co-creation and how to begin creating with God from a place of harmony, not hustle. This is a conversation about resurrection, identity, and reclaiming the divine union within. Let's get started. Welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode. My name is Cynthia Clark, the founder of Discover Divinity and discoveringdivinity.com. You are joining us for the Discover Divinity podcast, Reclaim Your Sovereign Soul. This is a sacred space, and it is devoted to those who are rising through the dark night of the soul and stepping into these spaces of reclaiming their voice and remembering who they truly are through the sacred union of the divine feminine and the masculine energy. In today's episode, we are walking through a soul map journey of awakening, restoration, and sacred co-creation. Together with my radiant guest, Sunshine, we are going to explore the deeply human moments that crack us open and the spiritual truths that emerge when we stop performing and we step into a new strength and we start to embody it. So I wanted to break down today's podcast episode into 4 segments. So the first segment that we're going to be covering is the breaking apart, or that awakening. And we'll begin with a beautiful, beautiful story from my guest. I cannot wait to introduce you to her. Beautiful story. I can't wait for you to hear her holy unraveling and how grief became a doorway to her divine remembrance. And then the second segment is going to be the theme of global soul retrieval. This is where we are going to journey through sacred lands and finding those lost parts of soul that have been returned, and how this union is the foundation for wholeness. Number 3, we are going to find out our guest's 4 steps of sacred co-creation. She has created something that is so transformative to help you remember who you are and to help you release control and co-create with divine, with God's source energy. And then last but not least, we are going to dive a little bit further into spiritual tools for your journey. And it's going to help you stay grounded, but also find support with your healing and that creation process so you can begin to live from soul, not survival. This is so powerful. So this episode is a sacred offering to all of you out there, and for anyone that is in the midst of transformation, seeking clarity, healing, or divine alignment. So let's all go ahead. We'll take a breath, open our hearts, and let's begin our journey. So Today, I wanted to welcome our guest. I'll give you a little shout out. I would love to say hello to Sunshine Hemmert.
Hello.
All
Hi,
right.
Cynthia.
Hello. I'm so glad that it's finally worked out for us to cross paths, get our calendars scheduled, so you could come on today's show.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I would love to introduce the audience to you, and then we'll go ahead and dive into today's topic, if that's all right with you.
Sounds good.
All right, so Sunshine Hemmert is a Christ centered life coach. She's a retreat leader, a spiritual guide whose work helps people return to the truth of who they are and create from a space of divine wholeness. Her journey has taken her across the world, and she's been to India, Egypt, Baja, Greece, the Philippines, and beyond. Each place has allowed her to return a piece of her soul that had once been lost to trauma, silence, or survival. And after the passing of her eternal companion, Jared, in 2022, Sunshine's path of healing became one of resurrection. Her message is rooted in truth that creation is not just about relationships. It's about restoring our relationship with God, with ourselves, and with the sacred masculine and feminine that live within us all. So, wow. Welcome again to the show, Sunshine. And I feel so grateful that we were placed in each other's paths and how spirit truly does connect us. I feel like the energy during this Aquarian age at this time is so cosmic and so powerful that we are no longer working alone. I feel like as we've been in a very toxic patriarchal structure, the world has been so much about competition and the push and the shove and trying to get higher and higher on a ladder. And that's not what the divine feminine is about at all. I feel like what's happening with the healing balm of the divine feminine is this beautiful, beautiful energy is gathering like-minded souls so that the energy is stronger. It's like, it's the ripple effect of coming together with a beautiful, beautiful pillar of light. And when we stand together, we're able to reach so many more people. And so, I'm so excited to have you here as a like-minded soul. Doing your introduction, I was like, wow, it really was meant to be that we were brought together. So,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure.
yes. So let's go ahead and let's begin with this breaking apart, the awakening catalyst, or that dark soul of the moment that has really propelled you into your purpose and your passion today.
Okay. So the catalyst for me, I think everybody has little moments that they'll say, oh, yeah, that was the moment. That was the moment. But the big moment was definitely loss. For me, it was loss. And the silence that followed the loss. When Jared passed, something in me shattered. But when that shattered, then something else opened. And for the first time, I wasn't holding it all together. Um, and in that deep stillness, after he passed, I heard what I'd silenced, and the feminine that needed to weep, and the masculine that needed to rise, and that part of me that needed to wrestle with God. Um, and I needed to wrestle with him, not just serve him. And I'd spent my life in service to
Mm-hmm.
him, in this service, and like I felt like I was just here to serve God, and I didn't just
Absolutely.
need to serve him.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to really be mad
Mm-hmm.
and really say, no, I'm mad. Why did
Yeah.
you take this love? I,
Yeah.
I'm I'm actually really angry. I
Mm-hmm.
feel angry, and I'm angry at you, this God became real, and somebody that I was mad at. I felt anger in my
Yes.
soul.
Yes. And what you're describing is that holy unraveling, right? It is that breaking point where everything feels like it's shattering and you go into the black abyss. And it is a very humbling part of the dark night of the soul, but it is, it's that part where it is the breaking apart where we do stop having to be in the old paradigm, right? We stop performing, and we start to step into, I guess, more important parts of ourselves that are ready to be heard, right? It's in those silent moments that you were talking about when spirit actually speaks the loudest, because when we've been in more of this toxic masculine push energy all the time, things get so busy that we don't take the time to listen. And sometimes it is in those shattering experiences where it is the stillness that we begin to start to learn. And so that's where, in many cases, sovereignty begins. And it doesn't happen to every single person. Everyone has a different way or a different catalyst that can begin. But I think what I would love to hear more about is those moments or those steps, right? Because you were forced to surrender. You had no choice. And something like death, those are moments when I look at death in my own life and the people that I have lost, there's no getting that person back, right? That piece of emptiness is there. And it's a new way of, in your surrender, trying to live your life in a way with that person not here. And so, like, I so appreciate you being so vulnerable to share something this dark and this hard, because death, I think, sometimes is one of the hardest things to understand on the planet.
So when you say the word surrender, I grew up in a family, my mom was an addict.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am in recovery myself. I've been sober now for 20 something years, and Jared was also an
Oh.
addict.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew a life of codependency. I didn't know anything different. Even my life with God, with spirit, was codependent.
Mm-hmm.
I had a certain way I related to God like I related to people, as something that I was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jared passed, I was also becoming I I was an empty nester.
Yeah.
So I was all alone. And even my name, Sunshine, reflects a codependent type of life, right? You are my sunshine. I have a certain way, I'm everybody's sunshine, a certain way I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jared passed, and my kids left home, I remember I woke up one morning and I thought, well, why am I here? I don't know why I'm here. If I'm not here to keep Jared alive, and I'm not here to keep, in my past, my mother sober, and Jared sober, and I'm not here to take care of my children. Um, I don't know why I'm here. And I felt really empty. I was really, really empty. But in that silence, something shifted, and I realized it wasn't it wasn't about asking, why am I here? The truth was simply, I'm here. I am here. And that's the truth, period. I'm here. And so those two words, I am, became that was the beginning of my surrender. I
Wow.
am.
And that those two words are so sacred.
They are
And I
sacred.
and I love how you are explaining this plague on the planet, right, which is codependency.
Mhm.
And when we can eventually merge out of codependency and even out of independence, right? And eventually get into interdependence, like that's our end goal, right?
Yeah.
But so many of us have been so codependent for so long, and especially with a relationship with God, a relationship with religious organizations, there's so much, excuse me, there's so much fear and shame that we don't know any other way to behave. We don't understand what it looks like to be interdependent. And so those catalysts, those dark nights of the souls, are those breaking apart so we can find that again, because I do believe it's all innately been a part of us. That is our divine birthright, to be interdependent, to claim who we are with our own individual spiritual gifts, our connection to the divine within. But it's almost as if we come to this planet, it's all intact, and then we start to have all these DNA programs, ancestral things, things in society,
in the way.
yeah, experiences, and then it's like we've got this tangled web that we have to start to unweave. And so it is those moments, and because I have been through several dark nights of the soul, like something you literally would not wish upon anyone because of the depth of where they take you. But it's also been in those moments too that you're able to start to have that silence, to move into the surrender, and then to start to rise in a new way. Like when I look at my own experiences, I look at you today, I just think, wow, this is so powerful, because this is when the phoenix starts to ground into Mother Earth, feel the flames of that fire, and it's the bubbling up, right? When you were talking about the anger, we've been so shamed with anger, right? Even anger toward God.
God.
But now that I've looked at this, I've gone through so many different layers, levels, understandings. I do shadow work with my clients. Anger is so beautiful. Anger is such a beautiful catalyst. That is the kindling, right? It's that part that starts to allow the fire to burn so that you can rise and you can move into that space of your fierce power. And it comes in that blackness. It comes in the stillness first. And then we've got to go through all those stages of grief that sometimes I wonder, it's like, okay, do these ever go away? Because it's like sometimes you'll feel like, okay, all right, I'm starting to get my grounding. And then one day it's like, whoa, here it comes, right? It's like, what layer or stage of grief am I in? And so I think it's just those parts where we get to be more gentle with ourselves, in that surrender to just welcome in wherever you may be, just knowing that it's perfect, but then take in that fire, because that's that rising that's going to start to happen. So I would love for you to expand a little bit more after you've settled in the surrender, you've settled in that stillness, you've started to listen in the darkness. And now you're starting to allow yourself to feel these emotions, feel this anger, feel these parts of yourself that you've probably never allowed yourself to feel before. But tell me a little bit more of that, because that's when your fire started to push you upward.
Yeah. So anger, look for me, well, anger for me looked like a little bit more like a letting go, because I'd never let go. I was holding on to everything, and it looked like control for me. So everything had a certain way of being, but now there was nothing there but me. I was just alone. And so it was about, anger for me looked like letting go, like basically to hell with it. Like just letting go of all of these rigidities that I had. A lot of, I mean, what I would be known as like these OCDs that had to look a certain way. And so since I was all alone, it was surrender. It looked like letting my kids go and trusting. And it didn't come as trust. It looked more like, well, let it go. Later, it looked like trust, but right then it just like, well, to hell with it. Um, and just letting it all go and kind of dropping it all. Like I'm not doing it anymore because it just wasn't there to do. And so it looked like I was quitting, like just quitting it all and to hell with it. But that's what anger looked like. It looked like quitting. I came to find out that that was actually a really great thing for me
Mm-hmm.
because I needed to do it. I needed to just lay in bed
Yeah.
and just sit because I'd never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
I'd always just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And so that's what it looked like for me. It looked
Wow.
like quitting and just being that what I saw as that person that just says to hell with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pissed. I'm pissed at God
Yes.
and he quit on me and I'm gonna quit now.
Yes.
Um, because he did that to me. So I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do that too.
Yeah.
And um and everybody left me. And so I'm gonna do it too, like a throwing a fit.
Yeah.
It looked like throwing a fit.
Well, and to be able to allow yourself permission to do that. Like this is a part of the process of healing.
Yeah.
To allow all of those parts to come up because this traces into our ancestral healing, this traces into our inner child. There's so much that comes with being able to lie down, kick and scream,
Mm-hmm.
and be angry.
Yeah, like a
And
fit. A
yes,
fit.
and this is the part too where we actually get to start to get those pieces of the divine feminine, that healing balm, and I would say the accurate divine masculine, because I think we've been fed a false illusion of God for so many years. And this is when we actually get to be held, we get to be loved,
Mm-hmm.
and we get to be nurtured while we're throwing a fit, while we're angry, while we feel like a victim, while we're so calling it quits, right? That's the beauty of opening the doorway into the true essence of the divine.
Because while I quit, I was
Mm-hmm.
saying I quit, right? I quit. I learned in that moment that I could, quit and just be sitting there throwing the fit, right? But that my essence was not tied to anybody else's survival. That while
No.
I was sitting there, my children, like they're God's children, that
Mm-hmm.
that my being was not tied to anyone else's survival. Nobody else died because I was sitting there throwing a fit.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody, it wasn't codependent. Like I am sovereign and they are sovereign.
Yes. And
Like
it's
we're
the
all
first,
sovereign.
yes, it's so beautiful. And it's the first time that you finally get to place your hands on your heart and say, I'm worthy, I'm
Yeah,
lovable, simply because I am. It brings us back to those words again. The I am.
I am.
I
Hmm.
am. I am more than enough. I am worthy in my anger, in my jealousy, in my sadness, in the betrayal, in the grief, like all of these layers. I am. And
And
this
I
is
carry my own, so in that darkness, in the
mm-hmm.
dark, in me sitting there throwing that fit,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm my own sunshine.
Yes.
I'm not everybody else. I carry my own light,
Yes. It's
right?
beautiful.
In this dark, I opened up my eyes and I was like, oh, I, I am my own light. God, right? God's giving me my very own light. I don't have to be anyone else's light. They're their own light, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm my own light. And that was for the first time in my life. I think it didn't matter that anyone else knew that, which is so interesting to me. I always felt like I had to be the teacher or just in that very moment. Oh, I just know this just for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that needed to be
Exactly. Well, and that's what it comes down to is we eventually just have to come home to ourselves.
to ourselves.
And
And that
and
is
it
powerful.
is it's the most important
I didn't need to
piece.
shout it from the
No.
rooftops and teach anybody. Like it was just like me and me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am. And that was so like freeing. The
Mm-hmm.
surrender is it's you let it all go. And at that very moment, it all comes right back.
Yes. On your sovereign decision. You get to
Yes.
decide what comes back. And
Uh-huh.
it's in that clean slate. The foundation has to break apart. You have to clean the whole entire foundation. And then you get to choose
what
how
goes
you
there.
start to rebuild. And so that's what I love about like looking at all these amazing places that you've been. And I'm thinking, this is amazing because I study ancient wisdom.
Uh,
And I can't wait to hear how you started to build your foundation again.
yeah, where I went. And it was interesting how each place that I was, when I let go, and there is no like planning, because I said I had all these plans and I was so in charge and all of these, we're going to take this many steps and I had it all figured out. When I surrendered, just knowing I didn't, it just step and it's the ground is there. And it was like everywhere I went, when I'm looking back at it now, it's as though I planned it, right? But I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
it was perfectly built in this way of everything at where I needed to be was exactly where I needed to be to learn what I needed to learn to be where I'm at now. And so I learned to just let go and let everything fall into place. And that is such a beautiful flow of knowing that I can just literally like, I, that's the beautiful part of the feminine, is just letting go and let knowing it will be the other part of my masculine. They catch each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can catch my own, and there's pieces of it that I wish, this is what's so interesting. The words to be able to explain this. I know in this podcast that I know for sure the people watching this podcast will know exactly what I'm talking about, even though if it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, again, is trusting that it will flow.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's just a beautiful part of the masculine and the feminine, not just within ourselves, but in the world, within each other, within all creation.
Mm-hmm.
And I learn that more and more every day of every second, right?
Yeah.
Even this podcast that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a sacred union. It's a restoration of sorts because I feel like, and in another episode I explain a little bit deeper about my, loss of my father, and not having a connection to him for my whole life in a parallel of the divine feminine, right? Like we didn't speak much of my father. It was just a coping mechanism of how my mother handled it. And so not I feel like that's in society, in the human race, we have not had that connection. The connection to the divine feminine was buried. It was kept from us.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, if people haven't heard of the divine feminine yet, and this is the first time you're hearing of it on our podcast, like buckle up, buttercup, because this is a ride, right? Like
Right,
when I
right.
when I finally just like when I finally gave myself permission to grieve my dad's death, it was as if I had a homecoming. It was a part of that sacred homecoming where I had pieces of myself finally come back, and I healed, and I found so many wonderful parts of myself that I could finally have joy and happiness in life, even with the missing pieces of him, even with him still being gone. But that's how I feel about the divine feminine. I feel
Mhm.
like I've been, for so many thousands of years, we've been missing this part of ourselves, and so now
It's like,
the divine feminine is here.
it's here, it's back. Yeah,
It is
it's
back.
back. And we get to,
Yeah.
and the minute that you discuss, it's like yeah, it is. It's a holy homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
You find it, and it just, it fills your whole being.
Yes.
When the places, and that's when I talk about the places that I visited, that I didn't know what I was going to find,
Mm-hmm.
but they knew.
Yeah.
They meaning the people from before, ancestors from before, as if they were just, come on, let's go. We're
Yes.
bringing you, and Jared as well. And when I got there, and I can talk a lot about this, but like when I went to Egypt, I'm sitting at the temple of Isis. And
Wow.
I don't even know who Isis is. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm sitting at the temple of Isis, and Mary Magdalene. I start thinking about Mary Magdalene, and I'm thinking, why
Wow.
in the world is Mary Magdalene at the Temple of Isis? Because I don't know
Oh,
anything
wow.
about what's happening. And so then I'm like, well, why are these people here to visit me at the Temple of Isis? I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm doing here. And I'm listening to the person talk about Isis, but she's
Mm-hmm.
talking about Isis, and I'm thinking about Mary Magdalene. And I'm like, well, Mary's here with me. You're talking about Isis. And so
Yeah.
when I came back home and I was invited into this group about Mary Magdalene, and I learned about how
Mm-hmm.
all of those things they weave together. But which again, that's what we're talking about, how once you're invited into this holy homecoming,
Mm-hmm.
you're really they're going to
Oh,
invite you right in and say, welcome home, sister.
yes.
This is it, and welcome home. And so it just will all happen. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing. And the way that Jared, you know, weaves into this is he's there with them.
Yeah.
He's with them and wants me to know, see, these are our sisters.
Yeah.
These are your sisters, and I'm your brother, and here we are. And it really does feel like, because it doesn't just feel like it, they're right here. I can't
Yes.
see them, but I feel them. And I believe there are people that see them. I don't see
Yes.
them, but I feel them right here,
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
And
And
I
so
can't,
much wisdom. So
yeah,
much
and I
wisdom
used to
there here.
be sort of embarrassed about that. Like, I can't say that. That's embarrassing. Like, that sounds crazy. I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care. It's not crazy. It's as real as this cup thing of water
Yes.
right here to me.
And once you are aligned with this calling, and you are, the way I describe it is the firefly to the light. And
Yes.
I mean, I love that we actually met in a Mary Magdalene group.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So, like,
yeah,
we're both like so passionate
about
about
it.
this. Yes, and but this is part of my calling. Like, this is what I knew I was supposed to be doing on the planet, and it's something from deep within,
Hmm.
that you know that you cannot stay quiet on. And so it was difficult for me to even start speaking up about toxic patriarchal structures, or
Hmm.
the Aquarian age, or the divine feminine, because of strict cultures that I had been raised in, where that's a no-no. Like,
We don't
we
touch
don't
that.
even talk about Bruno. Like, is like you get a little sneeze and that's
Ooh,
it, right? Like, it's like a sneeze of,
ooh.
okay, there's possibility that you have like this divine feminine energy, but that's it. Like, we don't go there. And so to be one of those people in that culture
Hmm.
that starts to use the voice and starts to speak up, it's not always widely accepted, but that's when I had to, just like from my father's death, I had to grieve his death. I had to go on a journey of figuring out who he was so that I knew who I was. And that's how I feel about the divine feminine.
Hmm.
These are the pieces of ourself that are ready to come home. And all of these beautiful, beautiful energies that are here to teach us, like Isis or Mary Magdalene, like, I could go through the whole list of all the things I get excited about. They are here, they are parts of us.
And just like the truth, I mean, it's just as true.
Yeah.
Little messages. Sometimes it's animals, and sometimes
Yes.
when I question it, I think, why am I questioning that? Because that's just as real as
Mm-hmm.
these other things that happen. They're just as real. I can no longer question what is real. When I start to question what is real,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't make sense to me. I start to, um, so when I was talking about some of the codependency things that would happen, I feel like I'm going a little bit backwards. In my healing process. And I talk a little bit about this later on in these steps, in these questions that we'll ask in the tools. And they have come to really help me. And we'll talk about that later in the podcast. But um, so as we go through this and coming back to what we were talking about, but these processes will help. They've helped
Mm-hmm.
me stay in, I call it in reality, because just because I can't see something doesn't make it not real.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, the reality is not something just that I see. It's something that I sometimes that I taste, sometimes that I hear, sometimes that I feel like on my skin, but sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that I feel a feeling, like a
Mm-hmm.
feeling. And I feel like bringing those things home is part of the divine feminine.
Absolutely. Well, it's part of, I mean, we're human and we have our five senses, but we also have our clairs. We have those part of our
Oh,
spiritual gifts that exist. And so learning with the Aquarian age, with that sacred embodied union,
they're
it's
real.
starting to listen to our spiritual gifts because those spiritual gifts have been shut off in a lot of ways
Mm,
because we have been taught to um, only trust an outside source, and you tend to question yourself. And so I'm excited to dive into your 4-step process because this will start to help individuals, the listeners
connect.
out there, start to be able to first, step into that sacred remembering and learn to trust not only, their five senses, but those little moments, right? Like that gut
Mhm.
feeling, or maybe those visions or things that they've seen or things that they've heard, to start to trust more of those things, just like your experience in Egypt,
Mhm.
feeling that presence of Mary Magdalene, and not even with knowing much about Isis at the time, you were already starting to get those little symbols, those little messages
Messages. Yep.
that we're here to teach you. So I would love to dive into your 4 steps,
Yeah.
so we can give the listeners some great information.
Okay. So step one is to remember, to remember. So remember who I am. So I can't create from a false identity. I need to know really who I am. And this is about peeling back, peeling away from my trauma, peeling away from roles, and stories to really remember the essence of who I am or who you are. Um, and who you were before the world shaped you.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're not broken, we're just layered.
Yes.
And we've talked a little bit as we talked about this. I'm not broken, I'm
Yes,
layered, right?
exactly. Well, and it is in those dark nights, right? There, we do have that cracking open because society, structures have taught us, that something is fundamentally wrong. And so that first step is so powerful because you have to be able to ask yourself that question: who told you that you
Hmm.
had to be or do something in order to be loved? And when you can ask yourself that question, that's when you get to peel the masks
The
off. You
pill
get to
masks.
reclaim your original blueprint. And that's where that creation starts to become more soul led, not role led that's been based off of fear and
Yeah, I
shame.
like that. So let not roll. Sometimes it's a who, sometimes it's a what.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can go back, and sometimes it's all. It's a who, it's a what, it's a when, it's a where. Like where were you told? Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's a story. It's a story. Like
Well,
I could go back to a story. And this girl, this woman, this soul now can go back and heal that because time is not real.
yeah.
Right? It's not. I can go
Yeah.
back and heal that me then with this me now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also will tell something I learned in this in who this remember who I am really. My soul is infinite. It is one bad mama. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
major, right? It is powerful. And somewhere in the story, I would get told my ego is the strongest. I need to learn, 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 learn. It's the big mama. Like my ego is powerful, learn all this, and it's the big kahuna, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
I got told that my my not my ego, not my mind, but my body was the big kahuna. If I got really strong and ate everything good, my body would be the big mama, right? Like I would just do all the things. No, 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 no. My soul is and when I get those in order, I'm like, oh, I got to go back to the soul. So my soul knows it all. So when I go back to my soul, I got to give this back to my soul because it will remember. I got to go back to remembering the truth. It's not that I got
Mm-hmm.
to learn it. My brain isn't going to learn it. It won't
Mm-hmm.
learn it. It will remember it.
Well, and our society has been so mind
Like learn it,
focused.
learn it,
Yes.
learn it, learn it.
Yes. Yes. No, and the mind has a place.
It does because it does
But
have
we
a
get to
place.
put, yeah, we get to put our soul as the driver.
Hmm.
This is a new reclamation, right? flows so well into your step two, because when you put the soul in the driver's
In the
seat,
driver's seat.
then you get to tell, okay, body, heart, mind, spirit, energy, this is what
Like,
we're doing today.
yes,
Right? Like that's where we get to shift. And just like you said, that first part we release, we undo the web.
the web. Because I kept telling my
Yeah.
soul to just behave.
Yeah.
Like the whole soul, behave yourself.
Yeah.
No,
It's
no, no,
because
no.
thousands and thousands of years have been based off of fear and shame. Like, how else would we know how to do life? Because it's been drilled and drilled for thousands and thousands of years. And so when we have this new message from the divine feminine going, there's nothing you have to do in order
Mhm.
to be worthy or loved, then you start to go, wait, this is going to start to allow me to question, which questioning isn't very safe in society,
No, we
because
don't do
you're
that.
told to be a little soldier, do it
Mhm.
exactly how you're told. And so when you start to ask yourself those questions, unravel it, say who, what, when, where did this come from? And now, as I'm leaning into the great I am, we get to reclaim.
We get to reclaim. It's almost like I could see myself, this little person pointing at the sky and saying, now you listen to me. I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
You do what I say. And it doesn't, it's kind of, it's funny when I think about it now, because I see the reversal and how
Yeah.
powerful my soul is, but I could not see it and I couldn't feel it.
Yes.
And I wonder, I was frustrated because I was
Yeah.
like, now why you're not listening? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
trying to rein in the sky, like, and then getting frustrated and beating on yourself for it not doing what you say.
Yes.
But
Ooh,
the
yeah,
power,
that's so huge.
right? The power is not the power.
Yeah.
And that yet we do that every day. The world is trying to rein in our soul.
Yes. Oh, and while you were talking, so I was creating this little, metaphor with the soul driving the bus, and then we got body, heart, mind, spirit, energy hanging out. But the thing is that, as we move into reclaim, and you ask yourself that next question, what parts of me did I abandon? I
Oh,
look at the ego. I look at the part of you that's throwing a temper tantrum, that's angry. And because I'm so passionate about doing shadow work with my clients,
mm.
all those are in the back of the bus too. And
That's
those are
right.
the parts
That's right.
that we get to embrace and we get to
We
love.
get to love them.
We get to love that part of ourselves that throws a fit and that is pissed off, that is angry, or those egotistical parts of ourselves. We get to also, it's just kind of like,
Because the
the
soul embraces all of it. It loves all of it.
it does, and it's that what it's the kids in the back seat that are fighting, on the way to a trip somewhere, and you know those parts need love too.
Hmm.
And so it's almost as if those are the parts of ourselves that we've abandoned, that we also get to gently and safely, in a really non-invasive way. Shadow work can feel very daunting for some individuals, but I can assure you that there's a really beautiful way that can be integrated, and I love being able to help people do that. But it's not, it doesn't feel safe to most people, because we've been so taught off of fear and shame that you have to be perfect, you have to do all these things a certain way, that it's not safe
That's a lie.
to have all these messy, yucky parts. And so, where you and I have been through these dark night of the soul, really messy parts of life, it's pretty much, you lose all of that pride, you lose every aspect of it, and you're like, whoa, okay, it's like you feel like you've been stripped down to nothing.
Hmm.
And you have to kind of go, wow, what's really important in life? And that's when you start to learn new things. You start to have new perspectives. So I'd love for you to dive a little bit more into step two.
Step two. So step two. So then we remember, okay, this is who I am. So then we reclaim. So that's what parts did I abandon? To become whole, we have to reclaim all the parts, which is what you're talking, all the parts, right? Um, so our voice, our intuition, right? Our power, our softness, I include rest, our rest in this because which is sometimes interesting and people don't quite understand that. But we meet our masculine and our feminine here, and those are the part that builds, and then the part that births. The masculine being the part that builds, and the feminine being the part that births. And I think when you were talking, this is really a big part of, I was very afraid of my dark because my name is Sunshine, which is so ironic that I was afraid of the dark, of my dark, my own dark. I just didn't want to see it. It was very, like you said, very scary to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, it just didn't exist. Like I was like, no, I'm not looking at it. It's just scary to me. And this had to do with a lot of the ways I was raised in my religious culture. And it was very, very scary to me. And in my mind, I think I don't even, I can't, to put words on it, I don't know if I thought I would die there or, but in Jared's death, he showed me, he literally took me into the dark. He almost like became it in some ways, but death and darkness be in one. And this reclaiming was in the dark. It's like it's where I reclaimed, because it's where I reclaimed who I am, which is the light. But I can't see the light. The more the dark, the lighter I
Mm-hmm.
became, and the
Mm-hmm.
scarier, right? Because they're opposites, right?
Yeah. Well,
Many,
and
many
we need
opposites.
dark. We need
We need
dark
the
in order to
dark to
see
see the
light.
light.
And yeah, and light versus dark, like they're there.
And in this very Baja
Mm-hmm.
podcast today,
Mm-hmm.
just today, I took a picture for this. I cannot remember another time in my own life this happened. I looked up today and I took a picture of the moon
Mm-hmm.
while the sun was almost noonday.
Wow.
And I know it happened because of this very conversation we're having
Mm-hmm.
in reclaiming, where the two can coexist.
Yeah.
They can. Um, where, but in order to get to that place, you have to reclaim, you have to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
And which is scary to let it go because you're like, well, if I let it go, then what? So
Mm-hmm.
letting it go, right? And then reclaiming it. Because the reclaiming is different than it's reclaiming it. It's
Yeah.
getting it back, right? So reclaiming my voice is where I say, that's mine. That what I'm getting it back, right? I want it. I want it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wanting. I want that. I actually want it. Um, and then wanting the power and owning your intuition and owning it, the sovereignty of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want that. And then owning, like reclaiming my softness and still
Yeah.
having my softness and my, that power, that hardness. How do I, because they're together, they're at the same time.
Yes.
And that knowing that is really a big part of the reclaiming, having them both at the same time, because we're taught
Mm-hmm.
all our lives, nope, one or the other.
Yes.
You get to be feminine or masculine.
Yeah.
You're a
And we
boy or a girl,
exactly. And
right?
and that's what we have to remember. Like the masculine and the feminine isn't even about gender, right? Like
Nope.
these are about movements. And we are multidimensional.
Right.
And as you were talking about the sun and the moon, like I live in an area where we actually got to witness the eclipse
Oh,
when it happened years ago. And to be in the direct alignment with an eclipse was one of I get
you
goosebumps.
felt it. And it was
Like
like part of your
I
physical
did.
being.
Like we heard the entire neighborhood. Like it was like an
Like a shift.
energy the energy had just shifted with nature, with people, and that, and that's the only way you can describe it. When you finally have that homecoming, it is like an eclipse of sorts. It is like that reconnection, right? It is that realignment that starts to take place when we recognize our multidimensionality. That's a word.
Oh,
I'm like
yeah.
making up words. But that's when we start to go, wow, I am.
I am.
I
I am.
am. And
Oh, that's beautiful.
isn't it? It's
Hmm.
sacred, and it's that part of us that finally gets to move into a new paradigm. I feel like that was what the eclipse energy was about. It was about that partnership, right? It was about coming back into that realignment.
Because we're always trying to get it to make sense.
Yeah.
Like we want it to make sense. No, this is just about reclaiming. And then the third step is the realigning. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't, things don't have to be understood. That's the beauty of when we actually come back. It's not this, that's the ego.
Yeah.
The soul is bigger than the ego. It doesn't have to make sense. We don't need to understand.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's
When we get stuck in this understand, nope,
no,
I'm not.
it reminds me of the broken record when you were talking about OCD earlier.
Oh,
It's like the obsessive compulsive
yeah,
OCD.
like
Like it keeps saying it, keeps saying it, keeps saying we got to figure it out. Why,
no, yeah, I'm not doing it
why?
unless it's all makes
Yes.
sense. And so we won't even step,
Yes.
I wouldn't step into it unless it made sense. And that is
Mm-hmm.
crippling, right?
Yeah.
Because it can cripple me. Like, nope, I'm not doing it unless it all makes sense. And
Yeah.
no, no, we have to step in, like step in, and then it'll work. But I have to be willing to jump
Yeah.
and not have it make sense. I just have to have like this faith, this
Right.
I reclaim it all, and then it'll realign. And
Yes.
that's the next one. That's the third step, that realigning of what am I creating and with whom? So,
Yeah.
and this is not, we're not, this can get, if I get stuck, I will get stuck in my ego. This is for me personally. I think everybody has their challenges. I coach. Some people get stuck in, no, my body can't do it. I have, they'll have physical like things. Some people I've worked with, they may be missing a limb, they may be, and then just really their body is their challenge. Some people, their mind is their challenge. They get stuck. They're either overthinking or they don't feel like they can think. And then some people, it's the soul. They get stuck in this. I don't believe in the soul. I just don't believe it. It's hogwash. I don't believe it. So people get stuck in these rings where they're like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm stuck. I don't. But the realigning is like this, what am I creating and with whom? It's not necessarily an understanding. You don't need to understand it all. It's like a belief. It's like
Mm-hmm.
what am I creating? You may not even know what.
Yeah. And I think as we are unraveling and we are pulling things apart, we have to let go of certainty. We have to let go of knowing
Right.
exactly what it looks like, even with the divine. Because after going through really deep, dark, hard things of fear and shame and betrayal and all kinds of things, when you actually start to come home to the pure essence of divine feminine, the pure essence of the divine
Purity.
masculine, you have to let go of some of those illusions and not have everything perfect. And so it's almost like just when the slate's clean, it's like going, okay, where can I
Here
take
we
this
are.
plug? Where can I put this plug back in? Even if you're plugging into a light, right? Like, even if you're just plugging into that light of creation to go, okay, this is where I'm going to start. And then allow that light to pulse through and fuel you and feed you so that you can move into that partnership, right? With God, with source, and also with your innate divinity, that divine
The I
wisdom.
am.
Yes, the great I am. And ask, okay, what are we co-creating today? Because
Mhm.
that's when everything, each and every day that we choose to show up, we look for all of those sacred little present moment
One day, like that, one day at a time.
experiences.
And I'll say, once you know like who you are, we did that. And once you know what you carry, like what you've reclaimed it, this step invites you to align your creation with spirit or with God or with, now you align it with them. And it's not with your ego. You don't align it with the ego. You align it with spirit, with God. And then co-creation is not hustle, it's
Mm-hmm.
harmony. It's not
Yeah.
hustle, it's harmony. And that really
Yes.
helps me. It really helps me to remember, okay, nope, we're not hustling, we're just harmonizing.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like just being.
and I think just like I said, with the ego in the back seat, we have to learn not to shut it out completely
Mhm.
because I just taught a class, maybe it was almost a year ago, on the ego. and really coming into this space of awakening. And we have to learn how to befriend our egos.
Yeah, I agree.
We
I
have
agree.
to
It's
allow
not
the,
an enemy.
yeah, no, we have to allow that ego to really just, wow, if it is shouting really loud in that back seat, you got to go, okay, I'm just going to pull the car over for a minute,
We
right?
need to have a
Especially when you think
chat.
about fighting in the back and you're like, all right, let's just figure out what's going on at the root of this. Because if we can
Yeah,
really sit and listen to the ego is actually going to give us a message so that then we can resolve it. We can come into a space of understanding so
it
that,
is
that we
trying to
can
tell us
move
something.
into harmony, right? But as long as we're like contending and battling with the ego, getting in an argument, saying,
Shut
stop it,
up.
be
It doesn't
quiet,
work. It
you're,
doesn't
you're
work.
never going to get the message. And so in
It
order
does
to
have a
learn
message.
harmony,
It
yes.
speaks in kind of codes,
Yeah.
like codes where I'm like, okay, let's sit down. And the codes are always, they're different all the time, which
Yeah.
keeps us, it keeps us on our toes. It keeps us like, it keeps me on my toes. But if I just sit there, listen, you mother effer,
Yeah.
then I can't, I'm so like up, like that
Yes.
I can't, yeah, you're right. I cannot be in harmony because I'm
Yes.
like so all the time. Right.
Yes.
But yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. If you befriend it, and it will befriend, the
Yes.
ego will be friend. It will befriend. Now, does it make sense? Never. That's not what it's supposed to do. It
No,
doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to.
no, and our subconscious is designed to protect us even if they're jacked up programs, right? Like, so we have to learn how to debunk all
Like
the
decode
jacked
it
up
always.
stuff
Right.
and go, okay, let's sit with this and let's realize where the
Yeah. What are
falsity
you
is, where
doing?
the illusion is. But it's a great teacher because, someone out there listening going, oh, harmony sounds great, but how do I do that with a monkey mind all the time? And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, let's start to befriend the monkey mind.
The
Let's
monkey mind. Yeah.
befriend the ego. And then we can step into that better space,
Hmm.
right? Of surrendering, letting go of that control, which is that release process.
Hmm. Yep. So then we go into this releasing, right? This last one. Um, can I let it flow instead of control?
Yeah.
Which is really the feminine, right? If we're in the feminine, right? Do the dance, the flow of the dance. And
Yes.
really this is where surrender, we just surrender all the outcomes. Like I don't
Yes.
know where I'm going to end up in this dance. I'm just going to dance. I
Yeah.
have no idea where, which is
Yes.
so I when I see someone in surrender or I see
Mm-hmm.
someone fully in their feminine, um, I think for me, and I notice it, it's one of the most beautiful things I could, when I witness it and I see it and I recognize it when I see it, whatever it's in, whether it's a man or a woman or an animal or a child, I think I'm really sensitive to it because I think it is so beautifully magnificent. And I would say this too. I actually notice it, the pure masculine when I see it too. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't use the word beautiful. I would actually use the word, uh, I would say it's structured, but it's just as
Yeah,
magnificent
well, I'm
when I
like, it's
see
almost
it.
like a
Like,
captivation
woo, like,
or
yeah, I
a,
just go, wow, when it's really
yes.
like whole and pure. You see it
Yeah.
and go, whoa. But when I see the flow and I, yeah, it is captivating. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the release, when you release, and I believe that we trust what we planted, basically. We plant it and then we just say, right, I'm just gonna see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think true co-creation isn't forced. Um, it's danced.
Mm-hmm.
It's danced.
Yes,
And I
I
think that that's
love that.
beautiful. All right,
Yeah,
we just dance it and it
it
feels light.
is. Yes.
It feels beautiful.
It is. And because the divine feminine is here to come back into integration, it just like I said at the beginning, that healing balm is wiping away those false illusions that we have with the male God energy, with the toxic patriarchal structures that have even demonized that energy.
Mhm.
And so I love that you're using the word dance. I use the dance with that energy as well because it is the union. And so as she brings in that healing balm of flow, and the softening as we
Mm-hmm.
bring in that captivation, like we were saying, of divine masculine. This is when we get to see the magnificent. It's giving me goosebumps because
Yeah.
I'm like, this is when now we finally get to settle in with opening that doorway into the divine masculine again, because we carry so many wounds with God, because of all the fear and the shame. And so we will finally get to step into more of the healthy forms of structure. And so, like, this is what I'm loving too, because we're talking about the surrender. We're
The
talking
surrender.
about like being in that presence, which is all the feminine. But now, as you were telling me, you had a few tools
Yeah, these
in
tools.
a way that you can integrate it. Like, this is very masculine way to have it all
Wait, yeah.
structured out, right? But we're able to do that because it dances with these other very sacred steps of the
And you'll
divine
hear in my
feminine.
tools as I share the tools, there are things, little tricks, and I'll share them too. Where
Yeah.
for me personally, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put a little spin on this today because I'm getting kind of in the masculine. And so I'm gonna make it flow a little bit different.
Yeah,
Or
that's
sometimes I
great.
get way too in the feminine and I'm like, I really gotta maybe, and I don't, I use the masculine and feminine for verbiage. Right. I try to, as I do this more, because I don't want to get so, but they really are good verbiages. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to give them a color and I'm just going to do
Mm-hmm.
yellow, green, or I'm just going to do red and blue, or I'm just going to do, right. Because I'm trying, or pink and blue. I'm trying to get rid of, away from the verbiage, because sometimes the verbiage alone gets a little bit too much. Right. And
Yes.
so for me, as I get into this, I try to practice different ways and different verbiages for me, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
light and dark. Like I try to, like try to change them a little bit just to help me branch out of the structure that I'm putting it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
To kind of change it a little bit. But
Yeah,
so
that's great. Yeah, if you want to
yeah.
run through, like, if you want to
Yeah, let's
run
go
through
run
the
through 'em.
structure, like, I love
Yeah.
structure too, because I'm like, oh, now I have some
And now I
tangible
have
things. So
something.
this would probably be the part where you want to grab a pen
Let's
and
grab
paper, like push pause on the podcast, grab a pen and a paper,
it.
and these will be the 7 steps that you want to write down with your 4 R's, and just place them on your mirror, put them somewhere where you can see them. So it's a consistent practice that can help you start to embody this beautiful sacred energy.
Okay, so the tools that I use, there's 7 of them. And the first one is ask better questions. And when you say better, that can be a little bit of like a better. But so I say, like, the better questions, try when we ask questions, I say the word better, I would just say stay away from asking questions that are yes and no questions. Where even when you're asking your own self questions, don't ask yourself yes and no questions. Ask questions that create curiosity. Um, and expound, allow to expound an answer. Oftentimes when I'm asking myself a question, we will ask others and ourselves a question that shut down conversation. And the goal would be to actually ask questions that expound conversation and allow for more conversation instead of ending the conversation. So that's the first one. The second is to create sacred stillness. And that's 5 minutes of silence daily, of just total silence, no sound. The third one is dialogue with your inner masculine and feminine. So write letters between the masculine and the feminine. So the feminine says this, and then the masculine says this back to the feminine. So you're having a dialogue between your own masculine and feminine because they reside within you. Number 4 is start a co-creation prayer practice. So, God, what are we creating together today? What, or spirit, or just whatever that is for you, whatever it is that you call it. But what are we going to create today together? What are we co-creating today? Number 5 is reclaim your voice. Speak one truth out loud daily, out loud, one truth that you, and I think that I do that in front of a mirror. Um, that helps me to really speak it and mean it because I'm speaking it to myself. Number 6 is practice embodied creation. So move intuitively for 5 minutes each day. So, and I also do this in front of a mirror when I can. But sometimes I close my eyes, and then sometimes I do it in front of the mirror with my eyes open, but I just let my body move however it wants to move, without judgment, and just however it wants to go. Sometimes I do it to music and sometimes I don't. And then number 7 is bless your life aloud. So I do this one in front of the mirror as well, but I stand in the mirror and I bless my voice. I bless all the parts of my body that I feel like I want to bless. So I bless my voice, I bless my womb, I bless my truth, so sometimes I'll bless my emotions and physical things, and sometimes I bless outer things. Sometimes I bless, but I do it with I am. I bless it. I don't ask for the I bless it.
Beautiful. Wow, this is such a beautiful little takeaway for all of our audience. All of these steps are so powerful, and I love that you've put them together. I'm sure we could dive into
Oh,
each step
well, hopefully you'll dive
and
into
make
them
one
yourself. Yeah.
podcast over over each step. So I love that you've put it in such a concise format, because these steps will really take you into that first journey of embodiment, and the steps too will also be something that will evolve, because what's happening today or this week or this month or this year may look different in 2 years. And I feel like these are something that are very sustainable to keep using. It's like a lifelong tool. And that's what I love. I love being able to create tools for the toolbox.
Yeah.
So what a beautiful way to kind of wrap everything up in today's show. Is there anything else you would like to impart? I'll make sure that I connect my audience with you so that they can follow you or connect with you. And then if there's anything that you would like to impart.
I think just the biggest thing that I love, I mean, obviously just whatever whatever the audience learns, I like to hear, and because I'm sure they could expound all kinds of beautiful things. But I think the biggest thing that I would just want to leave is one, that I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I could be here today, and I'm really, really grateful for you and for this
Thank you.
opportunity. Um, and I think just in co-creation in general, I feel like the ability to meet the masculine and feminine within you is such a sacred, beautiful power. And when you meet that and you find that your soul is infinite, that's what I want people to know, is that their soul power is infinite. And we each have that infinite power within us. And I think I hope that people will look inside themselves and find that. Find that, and never ever feel like they don't have it, because we all have it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Sunshine, thank you for sharing your journey and your wisdom today, your sacred
Thanks for letting
fire.
me be here.
Yeah, you are so welcome. And to those out there that are listening, your wholeness is not a destination, it's your divine inheritance. You do not have to be perfect to co-create. You just get to be. And you get to embrace this beautiful gift of the present. And so as we take a breath into that and bless, we get to begin once again, and we get to step out of, feeling like we're surviving, and we get to move into our sovereignty. So just remember that the world needs what you were born to create. So thank you again for joining, and we will see you in our next episode. Thank you for listening to the Discover Divinity podcast. If this podcast resonates with you, I invite you to check out discoveringdivinity.com. You will find resources to reclaim your sacred, sovereign spirituality. Here, you can join the Discover Divinity community, where we have free online community classes, as well as done-for-you courses and programs. Navigating the unique personal path to wholeness can feel overwhelming at times. If you would like further support or are ready to take your healing empowerment to the next level, I offer one-on-one intuitive sessions in a variety of different packages where we will discover, release, create, reclaim. Discover your innate wisdom that lies within. Release the imbalances that prevent you from living your truth. Create harmony in body, heart, mind, spirit, energy, and relationships. Reclaim your sovereign soul. It is time to discover new possibilities. It is time to discover you.